All right, everybody. Welcome to the Nic Bittle Life and Leadership Podcast. I'm Nic Bittle, your host. I'm here with my producer, communication expert, Patrick McGowan. How are you doing today, Patrick?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate you jumping on with me today. Today, we're actually going to talk about how communication is a hard skill. A lot of people out there will throw communication in a soft skill, or I even call it a smart skill category. But you're going to talk about how communication is a hard skill. But before we jump into that, I've got a bio that's I'm going to read for Patrick. And so here it goes. Patrick McGowan shapes your communications to attract attention, spark conversation, and create lasting impact. As CEO of Punch and Communications, he applies expertise in video, audio, leadership, communications, and facilitation to ensure clients communicate with more clarity, solve the right problems, and achieve more influence. At the heart of Patrick's approach is the belief that powerful communications isn't just about speaking, it's about creating moments of connection that drive engagement and inspire action. Through strategic messaging and compelling content, brands and individuals build influence, ensuring their voices resonate with the right audiences in meaningful ways. His work is rooted in curiosity, always seeking new and innovative ways to transform communication challenges into opportunities. Whether coaching executives, producing media, team facilitations, or refining unique value propositions, Patrick fosters communications that elevate people's leadership and voice. This drives results. With a commitment to clarity, confidence, and credibility, Patrick McGowan and Punch and Communications elevate communication, turning messages into connections with lasting impact. How did you like when I read that? Sometimes it's hard to hear so many things about ourselves.
It really is, isn't it? I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I actually sound impressive, but
You're a
the
pretty
thing,
big deal. I
I'm
don't
a
know
pretty,
if
I'm a,
anybody's told you that.
I'm not as big of a deal as you, and I'm certainly not as big of a deal as Tarina. So I'm filling big shoes today.
There you go. Yeah. No, she's enjoying a break. And so just a little bit, just so the audience knows how you and I are connected. One, you are the producer of this podcast, but I
Yep.
met you long before that. During COVID, I actually met you on a Zoom call, and you had the best quality. You looked the most powerful, the most influential across the lens. And I think the first thing I said to you was, "I don't know who you are, but I want to look like you." And that began our relationship, because then you are the individual that makes me look this good. And so that kind of began our relationship, and then it turned into some other work, and then you started producing the podcast for me, and now you're helping me with putting my books on audio version,
Yep.
and now you're teaching communication workshops across
Yep.
the country and working with companies, and so kind of go into a little bit about what you do, how you do it, and then we'll jump into how communication is a hard skill.
Yeah. So what I do for companies and for individuals is, number one, I'm helping them understand what it is they want their communication to achieve. So we can look at communication in two ways. You mentioned at the beginning that communication is a hard skill. Oftentimes it gets put into a category of being a soft skill, and it is not a soft skill. It is an essential skill that in today's day and age is really a non-negotiable in terms of being able to do your job, do the right job, and ultimately lead other people. It's really, really hard for someone, say a new apprentice coming into the workforce, if their boss doesn't communicate well or effectively, there's going to be problems. And so what I do is as you mentioned, I'm doing training for small groups. I lead it as a workshop. It's highly interactive, it's all about participation. I keep the theory to a minimum, but it's about getting us out of our comfort zone on what we think is what we're supposed to do, and actually start doing the right ways of communicating effectively and efficiently. So, I started my career a long, long time ago. I won't say exactly how long. No, it's been over 30 years that I've been in communication and innovation.
It's been a minute.
And it's been a minute. And so, and I've read the leadership books. I've been in leadership positions. I've been in executive positions. And communication is one of those areas that is indispensable to being able to get anything done. And you and I were talking a little earlier, and I've been thinking about this is this idea that just because I know how to use a hammer doesn't make me a good carpenter.
Right.
And I consider myself a writer as well. I've been a writer since I was 9 years old. I wrote my first short story when I was 9, and it was panned by my critics, meaning my older brothers. They thought it was crap, and it was. But
I ask them to be honest, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not when I'm 9 and they're 3 and 6 years older than me. They're like, yeah, this is crap.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate the encouragement. But just because I know how to use a typewriter doesn't make me a good writer.
Yeah.
And just because I know how to talk doesn't make me a good communicator.
Right. Yeah, and we see that. I see that all over. It's like I hear, well, I'm a really good talker. I like to talk. To talk. So therefore, I'm a great communicator. And I saw somebody on stage the other day, and they told the audience, man, I love to talk, and that's why I'm good at this. And it was a train wreck. It was a dumpster fire. There was no structure. There was it did more to hurt their influence than it did to help. And it was just malpractice. Just because somebody likes to talk does not mean they're a great communicator.
Yeah. Just because I know how to use a saw doesn't mean that I should be in charge of the miter saw for a construction project.
Right.
I mean, just because I like to use a miter saw doesn't mean I should be the one using the miter
I like
saw.
Electricity doesn't mean I should be an electrician. Don't give me that job. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
And so I think. Go ahead.
Well, why do we dismiss communication as a soft skill, or why do we not take it more seriously? It's like there's so many bad communicators out there. You don't even have to be that good at communication to stand up or stand out above the rest. But why do we dismiss this as a skill by so many that's really not that important?
Yeah, no, it's the essential question, actually. And I think it's in two parts. Let me consider how to not just make this theory, but to really make this practical. Okay. And I think number one is it's a cultural issue. We take the ability to talk and the ability to communicate for granted. And so we don't actually invest in what it takes to improve the way that we share what's most important to us. It can be in a marriage, it can be in a partnership, it can be in the workforce, it could be in the executive boardroom. Most people don't take time. Most people don't make it a practice. And most individuals, because they already know how to talk, don't see it as something that they need to invest in. And so it's become a cultural norm that poor communication is sort of default, rather than making communication an essential skill, something we invest in, and something that is critical for anybody to advance in leadership. How many in your experience, and there's a second part to this, Nic, but I want to ask you a question. In your experience, how many men and women advance despite their communication skills?
Most.
Okay.
And I think how we measure success with communication is flawed.
Yes.
I often hear it's like, I got to give a 20-minute talk to the company at the beginning of this, and they judge success based on how much time they filled. That was
correct.
it. Did I fill the time? And all of a sudden, if I easily spoke for the 20 minutes, then all of a sudden I have influence. And it's like, oh, yeah, you do have influence, all right. Not the influence you want.
Right. And so if we're looking at it a cultural issue, then it's actually a system issue. So this, there are symptoms and then there are systems. Was it a mistake in a task, or is it a mistake in how we get it done? And communication is so much more of a process opportunity than it is a task. And so to your point, these folks actually are looking at it, did I check the box and fill the 20 minutes? Not, did I say only what needed to be said? Did I persuade or influence my audience in the direction I think things should go? And maybe third, how are we moving forward? What are our next steps that are going to matter to everybody in order for the company, for me, for my team, for the client? We don't actually think about what we're going to say. We just end up starting to talk, and that's not the same thing.
So you're talking about creating a framework around everything we say.
Correct. It's the same thing as with meetings. How many, I'm sure you've heard this from a lot of people, and I've been doing a little bit of research in this area, but anywhere from 50 to 75% of meeting participants say that most meetings are a waste of their time.
Right.
But here was my revelation the other day, is that meetings are actually a process problem, not a task problem. Why is it a process problem? Yeah, it's a process problem, and a lot of things in business are process problems. It's how we get things done, not that we get things done. But when we address a meeting as a task rather than a process, then it's simply, I put the agenda together, I invited people, everybody shows up, now we do the meeting. Yes, we're checking the box to have the meeting. If we approach it as a process, then what is our plan? What is our design that we're putting into it? How are we preparing to make this both effective and efficient use of everybody's time? How am I facilitating it to make sure that everybody's being heard, everybody's engaging, everybody's participating, not just checking their phones, wondering why they have to be there? How am I making this worth other people's time? Which, by the way, when we make it about other people's time, not just our own, it's a sign of respect.
Right.
We're respecting people's attention in that moment. And then at the end of that, our follow-up communication is vital. Are we sending out the meeting notes according to the agenda? Does everybody understand what the next steps are? Is there a process for clarification? That's a meeting process. It's not just let's have a meeting and get everybody in the room and figure it out. There's actually a design that we put to it. Nobody would go build a building or install HVAC or a plumbing system or electrical system without a plan.
They shouldn't anyway.
They should.
Sometimes my clients are asked to just give it the industry standard or your company standard. But yeah, right. No, there is a design.
there's a design and there's a plan and there's a where do we put the plumbing and why are we putting the plumbing? I mean, it's not ad hoc and it's not just winging it. It really is about intention and purpose. And so one of the things I do in my own work from a framework standpoint is when I'm going to have a meeting with somebody, I always think, sometimes this is one of my frameworks, is I think in terms of like the 3 Ps. What is the purpose of this meeting? What is the process I'm going to follow for what I need to communicate and how I engage the participants? And third, what is the payoff for everybody? So purpose, process, and payoff for everybody.
Go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so the purpose of the meeting, there's an objective that we want to accomplish in the time that we spend together. So you and I spent just a few minutes prior to the podcast even talking about what are we going to talk about? What is the purpose that we're here? And then we got into a little bit of if this were a meeting or we're trying to communicate something of value to people, that's the other piece of the purpose. We want this to be important to your listeners, something that 1, they learn, 2, something that they can try, 3, something that may become a standard in their practice as leaders in the field. So, and that was my purpose in our initial conversation, is what is really most important to Nic's listeners in this moment. The second piece is the process. You and I talked a little bit about what is it we want to talk about, what's the order of that, and how are we going to make this conversation flow. And then lastly, the payoff. We imagine that the payoff is you get 100,000 new subscribers.
But clearly, yes.
Clear. Well, you have me on as a guest now. We'll see where that goes. That's 100,000 of fewer subscribers now that you've had me as a guest.
There you go.
But it doesn't take a lot of time. It does take practice. The first time you do a purpose, process, payoff as an agenda or as an intention in terms of what you're going to talk about, it's going to take you a little bit the first time. It might take you 20 minutes. To build it, because it's new. Anything new always takes more time. Once you've done it 5, 10, 20 times, it's going to be secondary. You're just going to be able to get a flow and a rhythm, and it'll just kind of be like more of a waterfall. Gravity's going to take over, and you're going to understand exactly what your purpose is. It's just going to come much more naturally, but it's going to take practice to get there.
Is this something, and I'm just thinking about, okay, I'm getting ready to have a meeting, and so I've gone through, I know the answers to these 3, purpose, process, payoff. Is that something that I communicate to the group as we get started? Here's why we're meeting. Here's how this is going to go. Here's why this is important.
Yes. You remember the old speaking rubric, right, Nic? Tell them what you're going to tell them it, and then tell them what you told them. Yeah,
right.
Now,
it's so true, right?
It's so true. So this is kind of a form of that. And I'll give you a really practical example of this. This is on a personal note. When I go into the dentist, I had some dental work I had to do about 6 months ago or so, and I'm in the chair, and the dentist, he's getting everything set up, and he's like, okay, now we're gonna go ahead and give you the Novocaine. And I said, can you hold on 1 second? Can you just tell me what are the steps that we're going to take? Because here I am, my mouth is wide open, and I kind of like to at least have a little bit of a high-level overview of the direction we're going and what's going on in my mouth. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And he just goes through 4 or 5 steps. kind of gives me a timetable of what that looks like. And now when I go in, even to the hygienist, she's letting me know the steps to understand what she's going to do, the process, and in a way the payoff. And it just provides a level of direction and order to everybody in the meeting to know this is why we're here, this is what we need to get done.
Well, doesn't that put your audience at ease too?
It does.
When you're laying there in that chair and your mouth is open and they're drilling and you can smell it and the smoke, you know, okay, this is step 1 of 4. And then when you hear him put the drill down, you're like, okay, now he's cleaning it out or whatever. Now he's checking, and then he's going to fill it, and then he's going to cure it. But you can kind of follow along.
Yes.
And I think it's so important in a meeting that we put our audience at rest. One of the things I always do in a workshop, especially, not a keynote. There's an agenda. They know I'm going to talk for 90 minutes and then I'm going to shut up. But one of the things I do in a workshop, because those guys are usually coming in blind. They have all they were told is be there at 7. But I'm going to tell them, here's how often we're going to take a break. Here's when lunch is. Here's what I want you to do if there's an emergency or if you get a phone call. Here's what you need to do if you need to go to the bathroom. And here's when we're going to be done. And when I just tell them and then I also tell them about engagement. Here's how I want this to happen. I want this to be a conversation, not a lecture. But when I do that, you can see the entire room just kind of relax.
Yes.
Because if I didn't, 45 minutes into that first 1-hour session, if they don't know a break is coming in 15 minutes, they're sitting here thinking, well, God, I need to refill my coffee, and is this hillbilly going to shut up? And I need to pee, and I just missed a call, and all of a sudden I've lost them. And the purpose of my meeting has gone in the toilet because they don't know what to expect, and we fill in the gaps of communication with our own version of the truth. Is that part of the value or the payoff of even communicating the process?
Yes, because people appreciate transparency and direction, and there's a leadership framework that I've spent about 15 years really kind of digging into around this idea of adaptive leadership. But one of the things that these folks recognized is when you are an authority or a leader, you're the one standing in front of the group, people are looking for direction, order, protection, and expertise, which spells dope. And so it's this relationship between being a leader and bringing people with you in a way that we're just wired as human beings. And so anything that we can do to basically give people a map. So it's funny you talk about
direction,
direction, order, protection, and expertise. And it's always going to be a mix of those 4. There's probably a few others, but in general, that's what a follower is looking for. So you might be speaking to the executive board at some point, or you got to bring it into management and the CEOs at the table. He's looking to understand what he needs to do or she needs to do, just as much as provide you direction. And so it's this dynamic that when you're the leader in the moment, and we all have leadership moments, we need to be the person who's standing up with that confidence, with that credibility. And one way that we demonstrate our confidence and our credibility is giving everybody a map of where we're going and why we're going there.
Yeah.
So you talk about this in front of your, with your workshops. I do something very similar. And with some of the facilitation that I've done, I don't create an agenda, I create an itinerary.
Okay.
And yes, it looks like, because we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a little clever. but
I
it's
might steal
intentional.
it. I might steal it. I don't know. I'm not saying I will. I'm gonna think about it. But
I could neither.
it sounds like Nic Bittle Crap to me. I don't know.
I,
Itinerary sounds pretty good. But go ahead.
it
Yeah, it's a
might
little clever.
it might be why we get along, Nick, because we are both pretty big deals.
Well, that's what I hear.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I've heard it on what is it coming up on 90 podcasts that you're a pretty big deal.
I know.
90 episodes. That you're a pretty big deal. Yeah. I'm still looking for the right neon light that we could put in your corn office there that says "Big Deal."
Yeah.
Tarina's gonna love
money
it.
Trail. Money trail story on that.
Yeah.
My one of my listeners, he's my son's coach, and I wrote the Life Ready curriculum in our school, and there's several schools going through that, and I also developed these little short videos, and he had showed coach, and I didn't hear this story directly. It came from our coach to Tarina, then to me. So she probably watered it down a little bit. She tends to do that because she doesn't want my ego. But this seventh grader, they showed this video, and this seventh grader watched that, and he asked coach, he's like, isn't that Cruz's dad? And he's like, yeah, that's Cruz's dad on that video. He wrote the book. And he's like, man, he's kind of big time, isn't he? And coach was like, well, I mean, not really. I mean, he's got a YouTube channel, and that kid was like, oh yeah, that's big time. That's big time. So I've got me, you, and the seventh grader convinced that pretty big deal. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think the thing is too is when we look, and just so everybody knows, I've listened to every podcast episode
At least once.
And the thing that I've picked up from Nic, number one, is he is an effective communicator. But what's really important about this is because he's an effective communicator, he is a more effective leader in this field. And as a more effective leader in this field, he is showing up by example. You are showing up and leading by example what it means to be an effective leader in the construction field and the trades. So it's not just your message that you're communicating, Nic. It's also your presence that you're communicating, and your presence is a presence of authority, power, and credibility. And so, but it's because, how long have you been doing this whole life on the road, professional speaker, trainer?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say 17 years. I'd have to look at a calendar to be sure, but it's been over 15 for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've been doing this for a while, but you've been honing your skills. Now, did you start in Toastmasters or National Speakers Association?
I started in Toastmasters. Yeah. So after I went broke in the restaurant business,
Yep.
and I had that come to Jesus meeting. It's like, what am I going to do with my life? And I just found that bright spot. I'd given that 20-minute talk, and I thought, well, how do you become a professional speaker? And I Googled it, put it in the Google, and Toastmasters showed up. And so I joined a Toastmasters group and did that I stayed in Toastmasters for a year to complete my, I think it was competent communicator certificate or whatever that was. But I found out a couple of months into it that this is going to teach me how to be a better communicator. It's not going to necessarily teach me how to get paid as a speaker. And so then
Correct.
I searched and found National Speakers Association.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great, I appreciate that, the similarity in it as well as the difference between the two. I don't know if you know this, Nic, but I joined Toastmasters in February. I'm part of this year.
Oh, I bet they hate you. You show up and you're a phenomenal communicator. You win all the ribbons.
Well, it won't surprise you. I usually win table topics contest.
Yeah, yeah.
And this last year in April, I won the, what is it? The area? No, not area. Area table topic contest.
Oh, wow. And so explain table topic contest for those who are not in Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a neat thing, and we should do
It
more
is,
of
and it's really challenging for people because table topics is you're given a topic, a subject of some type, or a question to answer, and you're given 2 minutes to give an extemporaneous speech,
Sounds good. Yeah.
which basically means you make it up on the spot
On the spot.
on this one question or this topic. And you get a 30-minute buffer, but the goal is to have at least 1 minute to 2 minute on the spot speech. And Nic, I'm sure it really does surprise you that I can actually take almost any question and turn it into a relatively compelling 2 minute speech.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me at all. You're completely full of crap. But no,
I am.
that's one of the kids.
It really
Yeah, I
is. I mean, it's like I found my purpose in life, and that is to give 2 minute speeches.
There you go. That's
But here's the reason.
right?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I joined Toastmasters is because I wanted to put in the reps.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a reason to stand in front of a group and give a speech. And it's been one of those, it's been a great learning experience. What I've learned about Toastmasters since joining is they're not only looking to help you become a great speaker, they're also helping you become a better leader. Because their through line, I'm new enough, so I may be speaking on a turn here, but the consistency here is communication leads you to positions of leadership, and we want you to become the most effective, persuasive, compelling leader that you can be. And the other reason why I joined is because I want to know, am I making sense? Does what I'm communicating make sense? And being able to give that speech to a group of 20 people every other week, or give a speech every few weeks, am I making sense, or am I literally just smoking dope or blowing smoke up my what, right? I mean, am I deceiving myself in some way? So that's why I joined, and it's really, so the one claim to fame that I can make is that we're one of the oldest clubs, Toastmaster clubs. We're Club 210 out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah.
And got started in the early 40s, I want to say. So this club has been around. Yeah, this club is one of the first clubs in the U.S. For Toastmasters, and it's Club 210.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can we just take a quick break? I need to go to the little boys' room real quick.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
All right.
Oh, that's better.
How we doing, Nic?
Hey, I think this is really good. I want to transition. I still want to hear about your other, because you got another framework, right?
Yeah, I'll do the other framework.
Okay. But we'll just tie a ribbon around this Toastmasters thing. Is there anything else you wanted to say on Toastmasters?
No.
Okay.
Well, let me add this. You know, Nic, am I coming through on audio okay?
Yeah, you're great.
Okay. The last thing I want to say about Toastmasters, Nic, is how much I admire my friends and colleagues that I've gotten to know. And the thing I admire most about each of them is their courage to just stand up in front of a group and give a speech. And why that's important to me is because I don't have the same fear of getting in front of a microphone or in front of a group to speak. And so it's a really, really good reminder for me in my work, in my communication training, in my workshops, that what I experience is not everybody's experience. I'm very comfortable. I'm just comfortable speaking. Now, that doesn't mean that I should always be speaking, but I'm comfortable speaking when asked to in most situations.
Yes.
So the courage that my friends and colleagues show every time that they get in front of the group, I just have deep, deep admiration for each of them.
No, and that's well said, because too often, I mean, when I was in Toastmasters, I was always hoping they would call on me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people in that room are there because they deeply care about how they connect and how they influence, and they know they are not a natural speaker. And so they come into that thing. Ours was at 6 o'clock in the morning, I think, but they come in every morning scared to death that somebody's going to call on them, but they show up anyway. And that's courage, right?
Yep.
And just the willingness to work on something that you don't want to work on and that's going to make you uncomfortable, and then to stand up in front of speakers like yourself, it makes it even harder. But that's why it's such a great environment for anyone who wants to be a better leader and increase their influence through communication.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what we had kind of mentioned before. We all have leadership moments throughout the day. And in order to be able to really own the moment, we have to be able to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
And I see every person I go to Toastmasters with as a leader in their chosen field. They're looking ultimately not just how to communicate better, but how to lead better. And that's what's, as we move this forward, as we move this idea of why is communication not a soft skill? Because leadership is not a soft skill. And if we're going to lead other people, because if you're not leading anybody, then you're not really a leader. If you have no followers, you're not really a leader.
That's right.
And so we should want to be effective leaders, and as to be effective leaders, we need to be really good communicators. And that means clarity, that means confidence, that means credibility. And people will rally behind that. People will want to follow a leader who communicates clearly and effectively.
So true. That's great. You had mentioned another framework that you like to teach. Can you go through that one?
Yeah, so the original framework, and this is just these are models of being able to put together what you're going to speak about depending on your audience. So the one being the 3 Ps: purpose, process, and payoff. The second is you'll see some similarities between the two, but this other one is really about what is the right solution. So that's sort of the question behind that's sort of the question behind the question. But you want to be able to clearly state what the problem is and what are the potential implications of that problem. So let me give you an example. The problem is water in your basement. Nic, what would happen at the Bittle Ranch? Well, you don't have a basement, do you?
I don't, but that's why, because
Okay.
every basement in this area has water in it at sometime during the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but if you had a basement, what would be the reasons you don't want water in your basement?
Oh, there's a bunch. Well, one is you're gonna ruin the carpet, and
Yep.
you're gonna ruin furniture, but more importantly, then that becomes an additional expense. It also becomes something else Tarina puts on my task list, and it's a project that'll never be done because it's always going to rain, and then if there's not water in there, it's going to smell like there's water in there, and then there's mold, and then there's foundation issues, and then if you ever wanted to sell your house, then there's all of those questions, and I don't know. I can't think of a good reason to have a basement. We had them around here because of tornadoes, but now I think a tornado's a better option. So,
Well,
but we have safe rooms now. But,
it's the weather tornado or the Tarina tornado that you have to.
One of them's quick.
Hopefully,
one of them's slow. Yeah.
Hopefully, she doesn't disown me after me saying that.
No, she's a sweetheart, but I like to give
she
her
is.
that. But yeah, a lot of implications.
Right, and so it's the problem, and then it's this compound effect. Right? It's like if I don't solve this problem, I'm going to have all these other issues that come in. And so when we talk about implications, we're talking about all the other subsequent or consequences as a result of not addressing, the potential for water in the basement. So we want to prevent it. Now we look at alternatives. So we talked about problems, implications. Now we're going to talk about alternative solutions. And so alternative solutions to water in the basement, the obvious one might be don't have a basement. Well, if you already have one, that might be too late.
Yeah. Fill it in.
The second, you fill it in, right? So that's one alternative. The second might be tiling. Up here in South Dakota, there's some homes that have tiling around them, and that helps to kind of push the water away from the house.
Yep.
If you have a basement or if you have a split level. So you could install tiling. That might be an option. And then you get to, so you talk about these, and you talk about perhaps the costs and the effort and the other aspects of those solutions. But then you get to the solution you're really trying to propose, which is let's put in a new sump pump.
Yeah.
And let's go ahead and hire somebody to put that in. And so it's problem, implication, alternative solutions, and the solution you're proposing and why. And so I'm imagining that framework, Nic, if you need to propose a change order in the construction business, is that an area where that framework might work, or where do you see this really applying to your listeners in a meaningful way?
Absolutely. Well, any time, and when I look at this framework in my world, I'm like, this is how I sell anything. Here's the issue.
Yep.
Here's the potential implications if you don't fix this issue. Here's your options. Do nothing. Pray and hope it gets better. Make a change. You can fire the person, or we could have them do some training. and then that's where I come in. And I think this framework works anytime we're having to, a lot of my guys are wanting to pitch a new idea to their boss.
Yep.
But what happens is we just go in with the proposed solution. We start with step 4. We don't talk about the potential implications or the problem. And if you don't talk about the pain of no change or lack of change or not doing this, if you don't tie the pain to the solution, then you're not gonna make the sale or make the connection. If you don't talk about the alternative solutions to your boss or leader or client, you're not going to look like you're prepared and that you're just tunnel vision. But no, change order, doing something that's different than is on the plans. Sometimes we want to go with a different wire or a different size of conduit, or we want to take a different path than the engineer who is living in a closet has designed. This framework could fit anywhere.
Yeah. And the reason why this framework is persuasive, and it's okay to be persuasive. It's okay to be influential. If you want to get anything done, you've got to we all have to figure out how to be more influential. And just because you've got 30 years of experience isn't a reason why people should listen to you. I hate saying that. I mean, I got 30 years of experience. Unless I'm being able to frame this in a way that people will know that I understand what the problem is, I understand what the alternatives are, or the implications and the alternative solutions, and why I'm coming to this. Yeah, it's my 30 years that is coming to this, but I've done my homework. Again, communication, going back to what we were saying at the beginning, why is this such a problem, is people don't realize that it takes work to communicate well. And the because I said so isn't persuasive anymore.
Yeah.
Especially with other adults. I mean, adults want to understand the why, but they also want you to understand, if you're proposing a solution, that you really understand their problem. And the reason why is because when you understand their problem, they feel seen and heard. And everybody wants to feel seen and heard.
So true. When I look at this framework, I think about, I don't know how many times, like a lot of the times that I'm speaking at a company, I'm doing their closing.
Yep.
And the boss is coming up ahead of me, and I'll ask them, okay, so what are you talking about, and when are you going to hand it over? And a lot of times they're like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to say yet. I mean, they're going on stage in 3 minutes. And sometimes people say that as a funny, but a lot of times it's not a funny. It's like they just feel like they've got to say something. But you can tell they have absolutely zero confidence because they don't know what they're going to say. And I'm thinking, like, this type of framework, if they would put a little bit of time and energy into what they're going to say ahead of time, build the framework out, even in their mind, and then you could quickly jot down 4 points, one on each of these, or one problem, 3 potential implications, 2 alternatives, and a proposed solution. Think about the level of confidence that individual would have when they address their company.
Yeah.
And when we have more confidence on stage, more power, more influence, boy, trust goes up, respect goes up, and everybody sitting in the audience is like, man, this is somebody I want to follow.
Yep.
I think it's so important. Is this some of the stuff that you teach when you do workshops and training?
Yes. Yep, exactly. This is, and we do it through a series of exercises. We get people out of their comfort zone. People, yes, the thing is the thing that I really specialize in is the phrase "get comfortable with discomfort," because
so these
people
guys are
don't.
Going to be tired at the end of the day because they're push them out of their comfort zone.
I'm going to push them out of their comfort zone, but it's out on the edges that is where we get growth. And so my objective, my purpose is to help people to grow, to develop that growth mindset, and to recognize they can do this.
Yeah.
And when you realize you can do this, that you can enjoy speaking even a little bit more, you can enjoy speaking in front of a group because you have the tools. I think that's the other reason, you asked, why is this not important? I think part of it is that people have not really been perhaps given the right tools. And so part of my program is to help people get the right tools, get the right methodologies, get some working frameworks that they could then take into the field and use at any given time. And different frameworks are for different situations. This problem implication, alternative solution is good for one type of communication. The PPP is good for another type of communication. We develop then the judgment to know what am I being asked to do, who am I being asked to speak to, and what is it that we're trying to accomplish. We put those three things together, we find the right tool out of the toolbox, and we put in 5 or 10 minutes, we will be a more effective speaker as a result. It still takes practice. This isn't Dumbo's magic feather. Just because I got a tool in the toolbox doesn't, just because I got a titanium hammer out of Home Depot doesn't make me an excellent finished carpenter suddenly.
Yeah.
And I'll give an example here is because it doesn't matter how good the tool is or how fancy the tool is. I at the beginning of the pandemic, Nic, I don't think you know this about me, but I started to play guitar.
Okay.
I wanted to learn how to play guitar at the beginning of the pandemic. I was already baking sourdough. I was already a professional sourdough baker.
Sourdough too. Yeah.
But I started in 2015, so that's my claim to fame.
You were cool before cool was popular. Yeah.
Yeah, I was baking sourdough and driving a Subaru already in 2015. I've upgraded to a Honda at this point, but
okay. Is that an upgrade? Yeah,
that was an upgrade. Except for the time I came through Corn, Oklahoma, driving my parents' car down to Florida for them. That was different. That was a sweet ride.
That was a sweet ride.
Yeah, so I started playing guitar, and I was trying to do some online YouTube videos and other things, but what I really got good at was buying guitars. So I ended up, in the span of about a year, I ended up buying 3 guitars.
Nice.
An amplifier, some guitar pedals.
Oh, you get serious.
Well, and they call it, there's actually, in the guitar world, they call it GAS. Gear Acquisition Syndrome.
Okay, it's a diagnosis.
It's a real thing. I spent more time looking and shopping for guitars and buying them than I did actually practicing. But I never got really good at playing the guitar because I didn't practice the guitar. Now, I have some musical ability, and I started to learn some scales and other things. I mean, it was fine.
Sure.
But I was never going to become good at the guitar if I wasn't actually going to practice playing guitar and maybe even getting a lesson or two. And so this is, you always talk about how, in your book, Know This, Do That, this idea of investing in yourself.
Yeah.
Join Toastmasters. If becoming a better leader is important to you, join Toastmasters. Read a book, listen to an audiobook, figure out how to be a more effective communicator. And that'd be kind of step 1, is invest in yourself and make a commitment that you're going to get good at this. And don't treat it as a soft skill, as something that's just because I know how to talk, I must be a good communicator.
Yeah. Well, and I would tell anybody listening out there, because I've got a lot of contractors or people that are current leaders that are in positions of influence, but they've got key people on their team that they send in to client meetings and to team meetings. And if you cringe every time you think about them getting on stage or representing your brand or company or even yourself,
Yep.
If you cringe at that thought because of how they might say or what they might say, man, they need to reach out to you. Reach out to
Yep.
you, work with Patrick, and with some framework, a little bit of time. They're going to practice either way because they're already speaking in front of a group. They're either going to practice doing it wrong and hurting their influence, or they can practice doing it right. And this is a learned skill.
Yep. It's a learned skill. And skills take practice to learn well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, Patrick, thank you for joining us at the Nic Bittle Life and Leadership podcast. And ladies and gentlemen out there, if you feel like your leaders could benefit from some of this framework, from some of the training that we have talked about, feel free to reach out to Patrick. All his information is in the show notes. So thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care.